What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. My name's Kyle. Tonight, Monday evening here, we're going to go over the top waiver wire ads in fantasy basketball. I'll hop into a screen share here and get right into it for you guys. Just going to be a quick, maybe a 10, 12-minute video here for you. And then I'm going to start integrating Yahoo's fantasy stats as well, because I think those are maybe a little bit more dialed in than ESPN. And the cover guy, if you didn't know who he was from the photo, it's Talon Horton-Tucker. He's been the most added player over the last handful of days in Yahoo here, over 12,000 ads. That's almost double the next best player, Josh Green for the Dallas Mavericks, Dennis Schroeder here for the Lakers, Shaedon Sharpe for Portland, and Jeremy Sohan here for the Spurs. So interesting. We'll go into the ESPN settings now. And what I like to do here is I like to filter by all. And then I'm going to tap last 7 days to get the accurate numbers here. And then I filter by the plus minus button. And the number one player added over on ESPN the last week has been Cam Thomas. I'm not sure he's going to be relevant much longer, maybe in deeper leagues like 12-team leagues. But the dude went on just a binge here, 40 points in 3 straight games, over 50 fantasy points in 3 straight games. He did hit 33 minutes on the 9th here against the Chicago Bulls, but then once all the new players from Brooklyn got into the lineup, he went back to the bench, still scored 14 points, still 18.25, so he's still a hold in deeper leagues, but 10-team leagues, let me know if you have questions there. After him, you have Derek White, who's really highly owned already. He's 63.5% rostered, but he's averaging 44 fantasy points over his last few games. He's been benefiting from the Jaylen Brown facial injury. So 62 points the other night here. He's just been lights out, putting up a ton of real-life points, as well as assists, rebounds, and some blocks and some steals. So Derek White must own if you can get him. Walker Kessler, still almost 39% rostered. He needs to be picked up. He should be picked up in most leagues. Mark Williams, though, he's one of the first guys that should be widely available in most leagues, especially 10-team leagues, maybe 12-team leagues. He's still out there. But Mason Plumlee was traded at the trade deadline. Mark Williams slots into the starting lineup here. He's about 9% rostered his last 7 days, averaging 26.3 points per game. We do see a double-double here against Boston. A decent game here, 6 points, 5 boards, a steal, and 2 blocks here against Denver. Tough matchup, but he still put out 21 points. So his last 3 games, you're probably going to see that be his average going forward, whether it's 21 on a low end, maybe 33 on the high end here. So Mark Williams, a nice add if you need a 5 center piece there. Colin Sexton, 69% owned. He's been playing well, though he needs to be picked up. But Josh Green, 7.5% rostered, the shooting guard here for the Dallas Mavericks, 7.5% rostered again. In his last 7 games, 32 fantasy points per game. He's been on a nice tear since the start of February. You see 26, 21, 39, 27, 29, and 30 fantasy points. Look at the minutes, though. 40, 38, and 40, and 37 the last 4 games. If he can keep that up, he's a must-roster player for the rest of the year. So he's a good scorer, but he also chips in a handful of rebounds. He'll get assists every now and then, and he does, participate in the steals and the blocks every now and then. So Josh Green, nice pickup for the Mavericks. Norman Powell, about 35% rostered. He's a nice play in 10 and 12-man leagues. But then Zach Collins, he's been kind of the biggest beneficiary from the trade with Jakob Poeltl here to the Raptors. He's 7% rostered. He's averaging about 23 points per game over the last few days. His minutes are starting to peak a little bit here. 23 and 35 over the last 2 games. He had a monster game against Detroit. He's probably going to settle into like a floor of 18 to 20 fantasy points per game. But you're going to get some spike weeks every now and then when his minutes go nuclear here. So Zach Collins, another centerpiece if you need one. Dante DiVincenzo, he's been playing well. We know Steph Curry's out for a little while, and DiVincenzo's minutes are trickling up a little bit. You can see his last 7 day stats compared to his season stats, up about 3 minutes, up about 4 points. Rebounds are down, assists up a little bit, steals and blocks are there as well. Good defensive player. So he's a 4-category player for the most part. You're going to get a lot of steals. DiVincenzo, only 11% rostered. He should be picked up in deeper leagues. Boucher, about 44% rostered, averaging 31 points per game. Trey Murphy, about 24% rostered, and he's averaging 23 points per game. There's Markelle Fultz, probably rostered in most leagues here. But Isaiah Stewart, I don't know why he's only 17.8% rostered. He's averaging 26 fantasy points per game. The minutes are starting to trend higher than his season average. He's up almost to about 31.5 minutes per game. Points and rebounds, he's about 12 and 8 points and rebounds there. He does get assists, he gets steals, and he gets blocks. So Isaiah Stewart, again, a lot of centers available this week for you. There's Jalen Williams for the OKC Thunder, 23% rostered, averaging 38 points per game. So he had a huge game here the other night against the Lakers, 25 points in that game, 54 total fantasy points. In a 12-man league, like, I'm totally fine with having him on, towards the end of my roster. And looks like if he's going to continue to get these big minutes, he's going to be a valuable piece going forward. So Jalen Williams, I like adding him. There's Talon Horton-Tucker, who 33 points per game over the last few days. He's been the biggest beneficiary from the Utah Jazz, sending Mike Conley and a couple other pieces away. But you can see 27, 27, and 24 minutes. The fantasy points, 40, 31, 27. I really like what I see going on here. And I'm actually going to add him after the show, after I get done recording here, because if this sticks, this is pretty nice. I mean, a range of 27 to 40 points. He's going to settle in and continue to be a nice piece for the Utah Jazz. So I like THT. You got Devontae Graham, who's benefiting from being traded from to the Spurs, and now he's 7% rostered his last 7 games. You're seeing about 33 fantasy points per game. He's had 2 games with the Spurs, 24 minutes and 37 minutes, and he put up a 31-point game. We know back from his days with the Hornets, he was a pretty good scorer. He didn't really do much for the Pelicans, but man, if you can get him off the bench or off the waiver wire, 28 points and 39 fantasy points over these 2 games, this might be a guy that's must own for the rest of the season. There's Sam Hauser. Not sure how I feel about that. Let's try and find some other filters here for you guys. So I'm going to filter by average over the last 7 days. And we're going to I'm just going to look down this column of percent rostered, and I'm going to see if there's anyone that kind of sticks out that could be, widely available. There's Derek White. There's Jeremy Sohan here for the Spurs. He's missed a little bit of time in February here, but he's back. He put up 21 minutes, 18 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, and a block. Good for 41 points. This is a must-add player. He's going to get a lot of run for the second half of the year. And I know this week's weird because it's All-Star weekend coming up. So we're going to have, 4 games here Monday through Thursday, and then it'll pick back up. So Sohan's a guy you're going to want to roster through the All-Star break. There's Josh Okogie, who's had 2 really fantastic games with the Phoenix. And as long as Durant's out, I think Okogie is going to be relevant. I mean, 32 and 35 minutes, 17 and 25 points. Look at the fantasy points, 34 and 47. So if you need a guy while Durant's out, Josh Okogie looks like a nice add here. Let me see if I can find some other guys. There's Jalen Williams. We talked about him earlier. Let's go to page 2. There's Walker Kessler. There's Jalen Duren, who remains a must-hold player. I know they just traded for James Wiseman, who's probably a pickup as well. He's not tripping the sensors because he hasn't played, but Jalen Duren must own. He's about 25% rostered, 36 points per game over his last 7 days. There's Devontae Graham. There's THT, Talon Horton-Tucker. There's Josh Green. So we kind of, we hit most of these. Dennis Schroeder, another guy here. Josh Richardson, a guy that's only 4% rostered, and he had been playing well with the Spurs, but now on the Pelicans, we'll see what happens here. Again, look at his last 4 games before the trade, 38, 24, 26, and 34. He's definitely worth a hold to see what he does with his new team. And that's about it. I mean, Daniel Gafford, one more guy for you, 13% rostered, putting up about 30 points per game. Kenyon Martin Jr., about 16% rostered, averaging 30.5 points per game. And then Reggie Bullock. We'll end with Reggie Bullock. Dude's putting up some massive, massive minutes. 40, 37, 41, 34. He's been playing his best basketball over the last 5 games here. So he's a guy that he's arguably the Mavericks' best defender. He's going to get you steals and he'll get some blocks every now and then. But as long as the points, the rebounds, and the assists are there, Reggie Bullock in 12-team leagues, probably worth a hold for the rest of the season. And then I'll shout out Cam Johnson for the Nets. I love Cam Johnson. I think he's going to be able to show what he can do with his new team. But yeah, that's it. Quick video for you guys, just showcasing the best waiver wire pickups in fantasy basketball before the All-Star break. If I missed anybody or you guys want to add, please leave a comment and let me know if I missed anyone, or if you guys have any questions on your fantasy teams, let me know. We're almost to fantasy playoffs, so looking forward to that. And we're going to go live Thursday night this week. We'll cover a bunch of teams. Come with questions if you need them. But yeah, thank you for your time. Thanks for watching, and have a good rest of your evening. Peace.